Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're going to jump right in today. We're talking about self-ID, lazy empathy, and virtue signaling celebrities that we all love. So on the subject of self-ID, I really think a lot of this got so severely out of control, meaning the LGBT, specifically the trans movement, trans ideology got out of control once self-ID became widely acceptable, or at least acceptable enough where there was control and anyone was able to say, "Oh, you're discriminating against me. I have a full beard, but I'm also a woman."
You're gonna give me my fucking money back.
Excuse me, sir. There's a young man in here. And you wipe him out.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
I'm sorry.
It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay?
Both of you guys?
Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was in general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
And once self-ID, was allowed, that's when we really saw this influx of the insanity with, men and women's sports.
Thomas wins the NCAA championship.
And controversy. Leah Thomas, a swimmer on the University of Pennsylvania's women's swim team, has become the first openly transgender athlete to win a Division I NCAA championship.
I try to focus on my swimming, what I need to do to get ready for my races, and just try to block out everything else.
Outside of the arena, dueling protests.
This isn't about hate. This is about identities do not play sports. Bodies play sports. And
Leah Thomas has been through puberty. So that's 10 years of having testosterone, making broader shoulders and bigger lungs.
And the trans children.
Can you remember the first time you thought, I want to be a girl?
When I was 2. I would say I want to wear a dress. I'd always say I want to play with the Barbies.
Jazz is what's known as a transgender child. In her case, born a boy with normal male genitals, but an unmistakably female brain. Do you know that you're a special girl?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because I have a girl brain and a boy body.
Total brainwashing. Cult-like tactics that were introduced into all of this, and the gaslighting and the emotional abuse. I mean, we've talked about this stuff before, and I've done it on other podcasts and other shows and in interviews where we've talked in depth about a lot of these tactics and these issues that have popped up and the harm that it's done to the LGBT community, to actual trans people, and to women and society and children and, everything. The other side of this is is I suspect a lot of my viewers, were formally more liberal, right? Like, I know I used to be much more liberal, and I was much more on board with some of this years and years ago, because I didn't want to believe that it was going to become this, I don't think any of us really saw it that way. We didn't think that it would get to where it is. And I know that there's people out there that are gonna say, "Oh, I knew all along, and we warned you from the beginning, and you're all so stupid." Well, it did take quite a long time, I will admit, for people to catch up. And you know what? You gotta give some space and some grace for that. But because here we are, and now we're like, hey, like, enough is enough. And we've been warning people now for years that this was going to get out of control and was going to get crazy. And now we've got Trump in office, who's, peddling back everything. There's only two sexes. And he's really coming down hard on the trans women and women's sports thing. I think that's all generally the right direction to be going in. And the trans children thing, I think that's the thing that really needs the most exposure, is that, children need to wait. Kids aren't trans, kids aren't gay. I always say to people, like, you hear the whole, save the trans kids, trans children, protect trans kids or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, the trans child, okay? And then you have the homosexual child. No, you see, that doesn't fit either. Neither one of those things fits. Children aren't homosexual. They're children. These are little kids that we're talking about. Children cannot consent. It's just, I feel like a lot of people have been conditioned because they've heard it over and over and over again with the t-shirts and everything and Save Trans Kids, that people forget that kids are not supposed to be in this conversation to begin with. And it's gotten to the point where they've medicalized some of these kids. And I used to be a person that didn't believe that was true. I used to believe that it was a right-wing talking point. And I now know that that's bullshit. You know, I've known that for years, that that's bullcrap. And but there's still so many people that haven't taken the time to really look into what the harm is, and that these things are irreversible. The puberty blockers are irreversible, all that. It doesn't help that we have these big name celebrities that have taken on virtue signaling as a literal career, that, you know, they continue to push this agenda and make claims that people like Donald Trump hate LGBT. And, you know, you got Lady Gaga up there talking smack at the Grammys.
It is a privilege to be a songwriter and a producer, a musician. It's such an honor to sing for all of you. And I just want to say tonight that trans people are not invisible. Trans people deserve love. The queer community deserves to be lifted up.
And everyone claps like seals. And now some of them are actually leaving the country. You know, they're finally doing it after threatening to do it for like 10 years. Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, what in the hell in the league of their own are you doing, Rosie?
And I'm here in Ireland, and it's beautiful and warm, not physically, it's actually quite cold. Moved here on January 15th, and it's been pretty wonderful, I have to say. And when, you know, it is safe for all citizens to have equal rights there.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
In America, that's when we will consider coming back. It's been heartbreaking to see what's happening politically, and hard for me personally as well. The personal is political, as we all know.
And Rosie moved to Ireland, of all places, where people are like being arrested for speaking out against like gender ideology.
Here at Wilson's Hospital School, Enoch Park, teacher being arrested for not accepting transgenderism.
Nor should I. I'm not going to turn my back on my duty to my students. I'm not going to turn back on my duty. No, you don't have a duty to do what's wrong. No, you never. And to bring me before the courts. To bring me before the courts. No, to bring me before the courts. This is a street. Children are being taught. Tell a young boy.
Surgery.
Yes. Surgery. Mutilation.
Yes.
Mutilation.
It's a disgrace.
Mutilation. Mutilation.
An absolute disgrace.
You're telling a boy that he's gender neutral. Yeah, that he has to take chemicals. That he has to take chemicals. That he has to take chemicals. Be heavy-handed.
I mean, talk about insanity. Like, that's where she wants to live. That's where she thinks that everything's great and wonderful, where there's like no free speech. Good for you, girl. Stay there for all I care. You know? And then you've got Ellen, who fled the country, who claims that Trump is the devil, but she was willing, don't forget, guys, she was willing to sit down and be best buddies with the other devil, George Bush.
Museum of its kind will open to the public in 2024.
But a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, and but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again. And exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. Just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone.
Hypocrites. 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 Sometimes I start to think, you know, that all of this empathy and all of this supposed compassion that people have, it's not just misplaced, it's lazy. It's turned on its head. You know, instead of facing the facts of what's going on with LGBT specifically, I mean, there's plenty of other things to talk about too, which we will at some point. But they don't want to face the facts of these issues. It's easier to have empathy or flee the country. I just have one question. When are we going to wake up? When is this state of mind that people are in going to pass? Is it ever going to pass? Are we ever going to get past this? Or are we just going to continue to blame Trump even years and years after he's not in office anymore? I just, and I'm not somebody that loves Trump. I'm not somebody that was, crazy about him. I'm not a MAGA hat wearing person. I'm not somebody who is like obsessed with this man and thinks he can do no wrong. Obviously, he can do plenty wrong. Every president can and usually does do things wrong. I am someone that likes to stand on patriotism, the Constitution. I love history, and I attempt at being objective about politics. And I know it's very difficult for people because it can be very emotionally charging. And I used to be very emotionally charged all the time by politics. I mean, everything that they said and did, I was like, oh my God, everything was hysterical. And over time, I've learned a lot and retrained my brain to think a little differently about those things. And it's not something that's easy to do. And I noticed that many people can't do it. And we all get fired up. I get fired up about certain things that go on, and we all have passion and we all have emotion about things, and it's perfectly acceptable and okay. But that doesn't excuse a lot of this behavior that I see where people are just unable to even have like any kind of discourse that's healthy or any kind of real conversations about things. And I hate it. It really sucks, guys. It really sucks. And I see it in the comments. I see it in real life. I see it in a lot of places. And I'm really concerned that we'll self-destruct not because of our government, but because of each other. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments about this, about self-ID, people's empathy, if it's really empathy or it's just turning their backs and walking away and being cowards. These crazy celebrities that are just fueling the fire and making things worse as far as I'm concerned. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.